Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude, welcome back, and today we're going to be taking a look at some potentially major snowstorms rolling their way across the northern tier as we head into the fall and winter seasons, and how that could be potentially a precursor of what's to come this winter. So be sure to, of course, stay tuned. We're going to be doing like a little preliminary winter forecast for 2024 to 2025 as well, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get right into it here. So starting off, you can see here, provided by the ENSO and the by NOAA, that we have a La Nina watch in effect, right? And that means basically, if you see the text at the bottom of your screen, that La Nina is favored to emerge between the months of September and November. So basically around now, we're kind of phasing out of ENSO neutral and into La Nina. So there's a 71% chance of La Nina this fall, and is expected to persist through the winter months of 2025. If you take a look here at the Climate Prediction Center ENSO outlook, you can see those chances for La Nina starting off as about, we're still in neutral, obviously. And then obviously in the later fall and early winter months, we're going to hit that La Nina mark before the forecast looks it's going to shift back to neutral by spring of next year. You take a look at some of these other models, right? And we see here that, again, La Nina is looking likely here. Probably a weaker La Nina, and definitely want to also stay tuned because I also did make some graphics. There's like a place on the National Weather Service on one of their websites you can make like little graphics. So I kind of put all the years together that we've had a weak La Nina to kind of compile it into what the winter months could look like. So definitely stay tuned for that. But you can see here the models, again, predicting about a weak La Nina for this winter. And again, you can see that here on the CFS collection of models where we do stay, again, weak, mostly weak La Nina here. So in a La Nina typical winter pattern, all right, we typically see the jet stream kind of coming down like this across the northern tier, right? So generally speaking, the north and the northwest are typically, cool and wet. And because the southeast is primarily south of that jet stream, all right, this is where we usually see, like in here, some warmer and drier conditions. All right, and also some wetter conditions where that storm track is going to be along that jet stream for areas in the Ohio Valley and again in the northwest. Do note some patterns here, right? You're gonna see this come up again throughout the video. High pressure there off the Gulf of Alaska. You're gonna see how that plays into the potential winter months later. All right, and again, the jet stream that comes across down in the down the northern tier and into the Midwest. Definitely pay attention to that. All right, so here we have these maps. Okay, so this is what I was talking about here. So this is for the winter months from December to February. Basically, I took all the years dating back to the 50s till now. Any of those years, those winters that had a weak La Nina, not just any La Nina year, but a weak La Nina. And I kind of compiled them all to show what a precipitation would look like, because these are all years that are probably similar to this one. Right? So this kind of helps to give you an idea. In terms of precipitation, this is up first. You can see the key at the bottom of your screen. Again, pretty much highlighting what we were saying earlier, right? You can see the northwest, generally speaking, a little bit more precipitation, also in the Ohio Valley, all right? Even though it's been pretty scattered and isolated. But what's definitely more profound is the dry conditions that we generally see across the southern United States, even up towards the coastal mid-Atlantic, southeast, south central, and southwest. That's definitely more profound, and I think that, could potentially provide an idea of what this winter could look like as well. All right, so let's move on here to the temperature. All right, so the temperature, you can see in La Nina years, you can see across northern tier, definitely, 2 degrees, generally speaking, Fahrenheit below average. I know it's not a lot, but in average over several months, it's actually pretty good. It's a pretty steep drop. 2 to 3 degrees in the northern tier below average, typically in weak La Nina years. It's basically the western half of the country, honestly, is really all just cool, even in the southwest as well, which I found pretty interesting. But definitely the southeast is where we're going to see the warmer conditions as well. I think that's gonna, kind of be like the two dueling areas of cool and warm air, and of course that may be setting up for some wintry mix, maybe in those areas in between. We'll have to see, right? Because we saw in the Midwest and in the Ohio Valley, we saw some cooler temperatures, also a little bit more precipitation, so maybe that could lead to some more wintry mix. We'll definitely have to see how that plays out. I'm gonna get into some oscillations now. I don't know if you remember this, if you've ever watched any of my winter forecast videos from past years. There are these phases in different oscillations, basically called teleconnections. Part of the National Weather Service and the Climate Prediction Center. It's just basically some patterns to look out for that could determine what conditions could look like here, and we'll focus on the U.S., of course. So in a North Atlantic oscillation, in a negative phase, Generally, what we see, right, is a blocking high pressure over Greenland, and that basically causes the jet stream to go really high up, right, into Greenland. But what goes up must come down, so that means it comes down over the United States, especially over the northern tier and the East Coast, right? And it's going to unlock, some polar vortexes, some colder air to get down into the central and eastern United States. Now, for what these actually look like, definitely stay tuned to future videos. I'll be starting to discuss these more and more, right, as we discuss the autumn and winter months. So definitely be on the lookout for future videos, discussing where we are in these phases, because they're definitely pretty important when it comes to determining what our conditions could look like for any given season. In a positive phase, that was negative. In a positive phase, we generally have like a low pressure here, right? Strong low over Greenland, strong high over, well, I wouldn't say near the Azores. Basically, the jet stream goes in between that, right? No big dips in the jet stream, right? It's basically a flat jet stream. And that essentially means that like no really cold air, no really hot air, pretty much just like meh, just normal stuff, right? The polar vortex is also generally locked up further to the north. All right, now we're going to switch over to PNA. So basically PNA and NAO, I like to think of them as kind of the opposite, right? So we saw in a negative NAO that like, the central part of the US and the east were all cold. When in negative PNA, they're warm. So that's another oscillation and a teleconnection that we have to look out for. And again, take note from earlier, high over the Gulf of Alaska. But in a negative PNA, we still see a dip in the jet stream. Usually, again, this isn't what always is going to happen. But we definitely see some colder air over the northern tier and northwest. In a positive phase, high pressure comes down. Again, high pressure again, Gulf of Alaska. Keep note of that. Warmer west coast, but again, just like a negative NAO, colder northern tier, colder northeast, mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, all those regions will definitely be on the colder side. Now, we're going to get into some models here as we head towards the tail end of the video here. So you can see here's a GFS. I'm going to let this play out for you guys to look at real quick before I analyze it. You can see again, definitely some, dips in the jet stream, right? Again, these are geopotential heights. So you can see lower pressure, colder air coming in there in the northeast. Then we see another one kind of tracking across the northern tier. And then we see a really big dip in the jet stream here as we have in a nice couple of weeks. And again, like I said, this is longer term. This isn't like, months out, but this is a couple weeks out, but still, I definitely did want to show you that we could be seeing some Arctic blasts, maybe some colder air that could allow for some snow to get in. And for those of you who have stayed watching, you'll be glad you did, because I got some bonus snowfall forecasts for you guys towards the end of this video as well. All right, so again, you can see one more time, you can really see that polar vortex kind of come in there in the next couple of weeks. Canadian model, let's go to the Canadian now. Again, a little bit of, dip in a little troughing as we call it over the northeast right now. Maybe some ridging building in later. And then we see another one kind of coming in, dips to the south, but then kind of just phases out. So Canadian, not much is happening. Maybe it could, be exciting for the mountain goers in the northwest, but otherwise, nothing like what the GFS was showing for sure. European model, you can see again over the east right now, we see some troughing, right? Jet stream coming in like this, all right? And then again, we let that play one more time. So again, you can see that over the northeast, we see some ridging over the northern tier, right? Little dip in the jet stream, little troughing coming in again for the air mountain west. But otherwise, nothing too much happening with the European model either. But again, it definitely does show, right, that there's already storms, right? It's October, there's already storms starting to come in. And again, this is definitely good news for an active winter season, right? It's kind of like a preliminary look at kind of what the winter could look like here. So, total snowfall, European model. I should let you know first that this is the 10-to-1 snow to liquid ratio. When I showed the other two models, they use what we call a Kuchera ratio, which basically takes a more accurate, it actually takes readings of accurate snow to liquid ratios, whereas the European model, all that's unlocked, is basically the set 10-to-1 ratio, right? But it still gives you an idea of how much snow we can see. Then you can see over the Intermountain West, we could see, 3 to 6 inches, and the higher peaks, maybe potentially 6 to 12 plus. But do also take note, look, West Virginia could even see a little bit of snow, right? So that's something to take note of. This is over the next 10 days. Even the Northeast, New England, again, 3 to 6, maybe 6 plus in those higher mountaintops, but the snow is already starting. And maybe even a little bit of dusting here for like Duluth, Minnesota, Marquette, Michigan, or actually kind of west of there actually, but eastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin could even see a little bit of snow, right? It's October. I would say this is kind of impressive. Snow usually does start around this time of year, but this is still a little early nonetheless. We take a look now at the Canadian model. Again, it gets a little bit more exciting. A lot more widespread 6 to 12 and even 12 inches plus even if you're not that high up in the mountains, maybe Denver could get some snow action as well. All right, in Colorado, maybe Cheyenne, Wyoming. So definitely looking a little bit more interesting. Again, this also goes out about 10 days. Take a look at the Northeast, especially New England. Some of the green and white mountains there, potentially 6 to 12 inches plus. Now the GFS model, we know they can be kind of wacky, but do take note, potentially feet of snow already happening in the Intermountain West, right? Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. But also, do take a note over North Dakota, Minnesota, 6 to 12, and even widespread, I shouldn't say widespread, but pretty solid area of a foot plus for places like Bismarck, right? So definitely keep an eye on that. Even the snow gets a bit further south here, you know, maybe not just northern tip of New England, but also maybe down into, you know, a little bit down further south as well. Places like Binghamton, New York, not too far away from Erie, Pennsylvania. All right, even a little bit of snow getting down, you know, into the south. So definitely something to keep an eye on. We're definitely settling in here to the autumn season, and definitely winter seems to be getting an early start here. So I'll definitely be keeping you guys updated on this. And of course, be sure to stay tuned for potential winter forecast outlooks in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Weather Dude signing off till next time, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.